All right, welcome back to an amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today's spotlight is Travis Sand of Pratt's Lawncare. We're going to talk about that here. But meet Travis. Travis is a natural-born entrepreneur who kicked off his career in the green industry at just the age of 16, actually a little bit before, growing his own landscaping business before driving into the world of agri-science and cattle consulting with hands-on experience working alongside top players in genetics and bovine nutrition. Travis found himself riding high, literally, on private jets, all thanks to the cattle industry. After leading sales of the billion-dollar manufacturing company, Travis returned to his roots in the green industry, and now, as business manager for Pratt's Lawn and Landscape, he brings leadership, operational efficiency, and a passion for growth to the forefront. All right, well, welcome to the show, Travis.
Thanks for having me, Drew. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I wish I had longer in the intro segment there. You have such a really interesting background. There's a couple of industries. They all kind of flow into one another and they add to each other. And we're going to get into that in the show. But before that, you, like everyone else, must pass the gauntlet. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
I'm a coffee guy, for sure.
You're a coffee guy. Good man. You do creamer or you just hit it black?
Sometimes creamer, sometimes just straight black. Depends on the day. Today it's creamer.
Nice. Are you a texting guy or a phone call guy?
Phone call.
Nice. I like it. Old school. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Pancakes. Country or rock and roll?
100% country. Come on, man. I was in the cattle industry for a long time. It's got to be country.
Okay. Even more controversial. Is the new country really country? Or like, where do you stop at country and where does it become rock?
I still listen to the new country. It is more rock and hip hop now. I'm a product of the 90s. So that's kind of my go-to country. But yeah, I still listen to the new stuff.
That's funny. Yeah, I have mixed emotions. When it gets really into like the more rap country, I'm like, not so much. But Brad Paisley and of course Garth Brooks for me is a easy yes. All right, and the last most controversial question of all: does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
The what? This is such a funny question. People are like, all the other questions people are kind of neutral on, but this one people get passionate about. It cracks me up.
It's funny you bring it up real quick, a little plug. So I went out and bought pizza for all of our crew the other day lunch. And we have some Hispanic guys that work for us. And they kept, pineapple. We want pineapple. I'm like, you don't want pineapple. We want pineapple. So I guess it's like something new for them. Maybe it's not as popular in their country, but they absolutely loved it. They love pineapple pizza. I would not touch it. So
that's funny. That's funny. Okay. All right. One last question. This is the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. So I ask everybody a leadership question. These are the John Maxwell laws of leadership. Let's go with the law of buy-in. So you have a big crew that you run. Law of buy-in says that people buy into the leader, then they buy into the vision. How do you feel about that?
100% believe that's true. And, you can say a lot of creative things, do a lot of things on paper, but until you jump alongside with your people and get in the trenches and get their buy-in and that you're authentic, it's just hearsay to them. That's why during snow season, even though in my position, some would think I'm in the office behind a computer, I'm just a crew person. I get in the truck, go out at 1 a.m, pull the long hours just like they do.
Yeah, man. I think that's so important. I think that people think leadership is being out in front. And then a lot of people I think are what I call they follow from the front. They're out in front, but they're just like looking back at their team and like, hey, do you guys like me? Are we doing the right thing here? But a leader's out there in the front doing the work as well. And if they're not doing it, it's because they're prepping the work for the other folks so that they can be more efficient.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Let's jump into your background here because your career has gone full circle. You started out in green, in the grass industry. You achieved some really significant success. Then you did kind of a loop around the corporate world and the technical world, the biospace world, and now you're back. So let's start with where you started here. How did you get started in grass?
So I think I got started just like every kid does. You have this goal that you want to buy a vehicle. You need a little spending money when you're younger. Um, so growing up, we lived in a neighborhood with larger yards. And I immediately, as soon as I could run a push mower and get on dad's tractors and stuff, I was mowing for neighbors. I mowed one lot, and on that same day, another neighbor came out, excuse me, and said, "Hey, would you be interested in mowing mine every week?" And I'm like, "Well, let me ask my parents, but yeah, probably." I think I charged them like $25 for 2 acres back in the day. No idea how to price things.
Yeah.
But that kind of got traction and kind of blew up, and I started actually before I was 16. So I had no way to really get outside of the neighborhood. But in about a 2-year span, I had saved enough money to buy a truck. My first truck was a new F-150. I had worked enough to have enough cash to go to the dealership with my parents. I didn't have a checking account at the time, so they went with me. And they wrote a check, and I paid them back. Bought the truck, which afforded me the ability to get outside the neighborhood. So I did that for several years. That would have been late high school years into early college. In college is when my family had founded a cattle enterprise. My dad had retired from manufacturing. He had sold his business, and we bought a farm. The farm was supposed to be a hobby. It quickly became a much bigger hobby and business, in true dad fashion.
Yep.
So I became interested in that and started to back off on the lawn care and mowing and landscaping side of things. I passed the business on to my younger brother and went full time in the family cattle business. So we actually had a couple different operations. I won't get into a lot of detail because I know we're pressed for time, but we had a farm that was operational. Then outside the farm, the real business was consulting. So we did a lot of data analysis, a lot of genetic analysis, a lot of different things. Our business was focused on essentially giving ranchers and farmers the tools that they needed based on data to make informed decisions, just like in manufacturing. And I know you come from the manufacturing world.
Mm-hmm.
If you measure it and make informed changes, you don't know what you have. It's the same in cattle. So really, we were the in-between from the farmer and rancher to the packing houses. We collected the data. We taught them how to make changes and improve their profitability. So I was involved in that for 10 or 12 years at a pretty high level. And like you said in the intro, leave it to be cattle was the one thing that got me on 2 different private jets, which was quite exciting. Our family, we grew the business, and then cattle markets go up and down. So we saw kind of the fallout that was going to happen in the commodities market, and we made a decision to sell the business, sell the farm. And I went back into, or not back into for me, but I went into to manufacturing, kind of the industry that my father had come from. So kind of followed back in his footsteps. He had some industry connections, and they reached out to me, and manufacturing, but specifically metrology, which is high precision measurement equipment, process control. So I was a regional sales manager for about $1 billion company for several years, 6 or 7 years. And it was great. I had a lot of fun. I traveled a lot. I, was successful in it, but the issue is that 2 things. One, I was working for a huge corporate company, so you got all the politics. You're kind of just a number. 2, my wife and I had gotten married. We bought a farm here in Georgetown. We own 25 acres where she runs a horse boarding and training operation. So the whole travel thing being gone a lot was getting tougher.
Yeah.
I wasn't really seeking a job at the time, but I threw a resume out on Indeed or LinkedIn or maybe both. And my resume was so old and hadn't been updated that it still had that little snippet of when I did lawn care when I was a kid. And it flagged the search engine bots. And I was contacted by a recruiter that was working for a company in Lexington. They were looking for a business developer. I'm like, business developer in grounds maintenance? You have sales guys for selling mowing and maintenance and mulching, lawn care? Sure enough, they do. So I went and joined them for about 14 months. I think I was there. Great company, enjoyed it a lot. About 6 months in, I got approached by the owner of Pratt Lawn and Landscape, who I had known well prior to re-entering the green industry. And he kept telling me that, I'm looking for somebody eventually to help guide the company. He's the state representative, so he was less involved. He's like, I need somebody here all the time, not just sales, but operations, kind of all facets of the business. And at that point, I was kind of getting tired of being just a sales guy, wanted more skin in the game. So we worked out a deal, and here I am today.
Yeah, there's so many fun things to pull from that story. One of the things I'd like to ask real quick is, because I know that, folks that are watching here have kids. What did you learn about, what's your favorite lesson you learned from mowing grass as a kid that then translated over into the next stage, which was cattle consulting?
So the thing I learned from mowing grass as a kid was, quite honestly, just responsibility and being able to talk to people. So, I will say, my people skills now are way better than I was in the past. But I think that the experience of actually a customer facing business, which I had to go knock doors at the time to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And, I actually would do.
Oh, you're in collections.
Yeah, I was the mower, the collector, the everything. Wrote my own invoices. I think they were actually maybe handwritten on paper at that time. But and then handling conflict too. There wasn't always. I want to say I did a good job, but sometimes customers are like, hey, you missed this, or I want this, and being able to handle adversity and conflict in those aspects at a young age helped me when I got into the cattle industry. Because when we got into the cattle industry, it started off small, but it quickly became pretty big. So we were dealing with large corporate customers. And here I am, a 22, 23-year-old kid, and sitting in a boardroom with a bunch of Native Americans. One of our biggest customers was the Seminole Tribe of Florida. They own a lot of cattle. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting in a boardroom with these multi-billionaires. They own the Hard Rock brand. And 23 years
old. Restaurant, the Hard Rock restaurant brand.
Yes, casinos, restaurants, everything. That was the jet that we flew on.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm sitting there at 22, 23, 24 years old, however old I was at the time, in a boardroom with these guys, and it's a little intimidating, but I was probably less intimidated than others just because I had a lot of experience, be it small experiences, but I'd already handled adversity and conflict and people.
Yeah, and not only conflict, but conflict with like a superior. When you're a 16-year-old and you're dealing with adults are in a different class, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, and you kind of glossed over this, and I want to bring this up because it plays into what you're doing today. When you were doing cattle consulting, you weren't just like saying, "Oh, this is how much cows are worth." Like, tell us a little about the technology and the types of bio stuff that you were into in the cattle consulting.
Sure. So our business model was, when we work with a rancher, we started out with collecting just simple analytical data on the animals, be it even just as basic as their identification numbers, any type of known data, because you're starting kind of from scratch. So really nothing about the cow other than it's a black cow and about how old it is and what its tag number is. So traditionally, ranchers will breed your cattle. They have a calf. That calf gets to a certain weight. It goes to the stockyards. It's sold. We were kind of the intermediary there. Excuse me. So we would kind of intervene at that point, and we would get those cattle in our system. They would have an identifier. They would go on to the feed yard and start the feeding process, the growing process to become steaks. But all along that, we had
the growing process to become steaks. I love that. Might be my favorite line of the whole show today. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so all along that process, though, we had relationships with these feed yards and these packing houses, and we'd be collecting data on that performance of that animal, and then the animal would hit its mature weight. So now we've collected all of its feed data, its efficiencies, how it performed in the feed yard. Now it goes and gets harvested.
Yeah.
Animals harvested, it's graded on prime, choice, select, ribeye area, a bunch of different markers that make that carcass worth a certain amount. Some carcasses are worth more than others. So then we would compile all that data and we would look at, okay, that mama cow on the farm, number 3, produced this calf that did this, and you bred to this bull. So you start to break down that data and make changes. So the changes that we would advise ranchers to do, and we had partners in the industry, large partners. One people around here are familiar with is Alltech in Lexington on the nutrition side. But we would say, hey, let's artificially inseminate that cow to these bulls, or this bull in this herd, and that bull in this herd, and this is going to increase this ribeye area. Or you got great genetics, but they're just not being expressed. You got a nutritional deficiency. Hence, we're all. So cattle have a long window before you get something from conception to consumption. It's like 18, 20, 24 months in some cases. So you're making changes today that you're not going to see for a long time. But once you start to get data, and we had a kind of a proprietary database system that we collect this data and analyze this data in, and I helped create that. Once you started to collect data over 3 to 5 years, all of a sudden you had a very predictable product. It's just like imagine trading a stock on the stock market, but you know what that stock's going to do, except for the stock is livestock. So now instead of the ranchers going to the bluegrass stockyards and just, selling their cattle and not reaping the benefits of all the premiums, they retain their ownership in the cattle, and they reaped all the benefits and the premiums that the packing houses would have. So that's how we made them become profitable.
So I love that story for so many reasons. One, I think Mike Rowe is the first person that really turned me on to this idea with his Dirty Jobs show. And Mike Rowe, if there's anybody that champions the everyday hardworking man, it's Mike Rowe, right? But he's like, listen, we have 1% of our population that's feeding all of our population. Like there's more science and technology in agrispace, in agritech, than there is in all the other ones combined.
Yes.
And this is what I love, because you were doing this. This was 10 years ago. How long ago were you doing this?
The business was founded in 2004, and it ran from 2004 to 2017, 18, somewhere in there.
Yeah, this is 20 years ago. This is essentially what you're doing is data analytics and machine learning, except not machine learning. 2 decades ago, right? And you were on the cutting edge of that. I think that's so, and it does carry into what you're doing today, because much like cows, lawn care. I've discovered this. I used to make fun of like the suburban dads who like cared about their lawns and like would go to get the, would seed and feed and do all the things. I was like, you guys are losers. And now I'm a dad and I have a house, and I realize a lawn takes 2 years, 3 years to really purge the weeds and then get it up and running. The cycles in the agri space are really long, and you have to have somebody that's focused on that and really knows the science. Otherwise, you're just throwing Lucky Charms at the project, right?
Yeah, you have to have data. Like if you don't have any data, how can you make informed decisions? And it does cross over into lawn care. We make small, minute changes to the products that we use, to our applications and our treatments, but it does take time. The other thing is that you have to be partnered with somebody that uses great products that are effective, that are not diluted. And the easiest way to boost your profit margins is to dilute the actual product. Sell more water. Well, water doesn't do anything. So yeah, back to the cattle side though, the minute changes, they do stack up over time. And to Mike Rowe's point, which is he's one of my favorite TV personalities in general, really. The reason why the 1% can feed such the population is because of the technology. If you can make 100 pounds difference in a carcass being heavier, or a few hundred pounds difference over tens of millions of head of cattle, how many more people did you feed without having to have any more ground, any more input other than maybe genetics and nutrition?
Yeah. I think that's cool. I think we had lunch. It must have been lunch. He was at Galvin's. We had lunch, and you started opening up this like portion of your life. Like I happen to know Pratt, Philip Pratt, and that's how kind of how we got connected. And I was like, oh, cool. We're going to talk about lawn care. We're going to talk about business. It'll be great. And I was like, oh, this is super fascinating. Because you have a deep history in the science and the detailed focus operations of agrispace. So then you get rolled over, and I love your story is I believe in serendipity, right? I'm a man of faith, and so I always pay attention when there's something serendipitously occurs. But you said that you kind of accidentally left the green work on your resume, and then you get to do this work at this other company. And I want to be clear, the other company, it was great. This is just Pratt's is an excellent opportunity for you personally. What did you learn at your previous organization that you're going to be carrying forward to Pratt's? Like, what like clicked and you're like, oh, I want to bring that to Pratt's.
Yeah, so I was fortunate when I worked for the previous grounds maintenance company, and I'll be clear, they just do commercial grounds maintenance. They don't do residential lawn care, landscaping, and all this. But they were pretty cutting edge in the technology that they used. They were what I would call the curve. I did not realize the manufacturing approach that was taken and of grounds maintenance and lawn care and landscape.
Yeah.
And when I got there, it was very quickly, I'm like, well, outside the cattle, we were manufacturing cattle essentially, right? And then I went into the manufacturing world and was doing process control, selling millions of dollars worth of process control equipment.
Yeah, I jumped over that. I apologize. That's right. Yeah.
And, grounds maintenance, the same thing. We're literally taking maps, looking at square feet, seeing how fast a mower or a Z sprayer or all these different tools and technology can cover ground, and that's how we come with our pricing. So when I started talking with Mr. Pratt, he's like, hey, we utilize some of that, but not a lot. I'm like, well, I think I can help you. There's nothing proprietary about it other than what's proprietary is your numbers, but the process is industry wide. Yeah. So that's what I learned over there that I brought into Pratt's, and we're slowly, it's a slow process, just like cattle, it takes a while. But it's a slow process to change that up and to actually utilize the data that we're collecting now.
Yeah. And what I like about that, because we were talking about this, and you and I both share, like you said, a manufacturing background. It's easy to inflate the quote. You just look at a field, you're like, man, I feel like that's whatever, $1,000 or $100 of product. And here's my quote. And then the guy, the company signs the quote, but you don't actually have to pay the piper until you have to pay the piper, right? Like at some point, there's a difference between what I quoted and what it actually took. Sure. And the way that you address that is you proactively go out there and you're like, hey, I want to give the best price that I can, but I also want to do an amazing product. And so to do that, I have to get really precise at my science and art. I've had a bunch of friends that are artists, and what I notice is that the really good artists, the ones that are succeeding, are really more scientists than artists, right? They're the Da Vinci. They like get into the details and they map that work out, and then they're able to do really cool stuff. So, yeah, you and I connected. I think it's super cool. I mean, you're using satellites. Are you using drones as well? Like, talk to me about the mapping process.
We don't use drones. However, I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious though that the mapping software that we use, there's probably drone shots that they're using, or drones are using to make the shots, because they're super detailed. We use a software called Aspire. It's huge in the industry, and part of that plugin is another software called Property Intel. I mean, in Property Intel, you can get 3 layers of satellite imagery. You get Google, which is kind of trashy, to be honest with you. You get near view, and you get eagle, or near map and eagle view. And eagle view is not everywhere yet, but in heavily populated areas, I can zoom in and see if it's a boxwood or a holly shrub. I mean, it's that detailed. So what that allows us to do is that definitely allows us to be very precise in our mapping and get our square footages down, because everything is more or less based on square footage. So, but getting back to the drones, there's a tractor dealership right next door to our office, and there's a huge drone in there that is a spray drone. So I've never seen it work, but apparently it will fly crops, and it will target, like, assuming using AI, but it will target spot treatments of weeds or unwanted grasses. So you're covering a lot of ground quickly. and it's kind of doing it itself.
That's so. I used to be in helicopters, and I argued for this hard for 5 years. I was like, we have to get into big micro drones. In other words, something that can carry 120 pounds, 200 pounds. And that's cool to hear that that's in the industry now. That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay. So you had all this work, you're at Pratt's, you're redoing the organization, you're keeping that small town feel. So talk to me about how can you, because I don't think any of us really like the corporate world. We understand it's necessary evil. There's some really cool things about corporate, like they can do things on a large scale. They bring a lot of process efficiency, but I think that you lose that customer care. So one of the things, again, that you and I connect on is I like to say that I'm at the intersection of startup world, startup passion, small business practicality, and big business skills. You're there too. You have this rich history in that. So talk to me about what are you bringing to Pratt's and how are you protecting that small town feel?
Yeah, so I have a lot of experience in the corporate world, a lot of experience with scaling. And what you said was perfect, that nobody likes the big corporate overreach. But there is definitely building blocks and structures you got to have in place that resemble corporate in order for a business to be efficient, to have processes, to be able to scale. However, I've made it a goal, and my team knows this, that yes, we might feel a little uncomfortable now. We're putting in these big business ideas and corporate structure, but we all live here in a community, me included, and we make an impact on the small business level. We employ people that are local. We give a lot to charity. We do a lot of things around the community, and I don't want to ever lose that. But I also realize that in order to stay competitive and in order to enjoy the profits that we make, we do have to have some sort of structure that resembles corporate. We got to have our employee handbooks and our benefits, and we have all that now. We got to do all those things. So I'm, like you said, I'm kind of at that crossroads where I do have the experience, not only in the ag business, our family owning that, us putting it together, but also working for the $1 billion manufacturing company and having, a whole corporate team. I have all that insight and experience there. So I know what we should do and what we need to do, but I recognize I'm able to scale it back and make it small business and local.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, so let's talk about kind of what you do. I know is that you or me? Is it? I got some feedback on the mic there. Okay, I think we're good. So you do residential work. You do like corporate landscaping. Tell me your whole, what are your categories of work that you do?
So we really have three, I guess you could call it 4 divisions. We have our residential lawn care division, or what we have recently been calling plant healthcare and integrated pest management. So we take care of residential clients. They're going to be your acre or less yards, most typically. We have a lot of clients in that realm. That's kind of been the backbone, I would say, of what we are known for. We have our landscape design and install, which is going to be both residential and commercial, but more so on the residential side. And we'll go out and we'll do some maintenance on residential properties, but it's more so design, installation, and then if it's a job where we're on a commercial grounds client's property and it's a little higher end install, we use that team for that. And then we have our commercial grounds division, which takes care of our corporate clients. So we're going out, we're mowing, we're doing our shrub trims, our mulch applications, our annual flowers. Those are going to be the customers that we have here in town. And when I say in town, we're Georgetown, Lexington, and surrounding counties. That's going to be the Toyota type clients, the hospitals, the manufacturing plants, the office spaces. We have quite a few of those. The fourth kind of division that is only in play at certain times of the year is snow and ice management. So we go out for our corporate clients and we will do snow and ice management for them throughout the snow season. Keep everybody safe.
Yeah, I love it. So kind of a full service thing. I like that you do residential because I think I have about a half acre is what I have. And sometimes it's too much for me. For years, my boys are 14, so they've taken it over. And sometimes their single customer, which is me, does fuss at them when they don't do their job correctly. But no, having a corporate guy, having a team like yours take care of my lawn so that it looks nice is a huge burden off your shoulders.
Yep.
If you're a corporate area, tell me a story about like maybe, and you can change the name to protect the guilty here, but tell me a story about your favorite corporate client and what you were able to do to them and how fast you were able to knock that out.
Yeah, so one of my favorite ones, and we've had them for a long time, is a local hospital here. And they recently, there's a large office building across the road from them, owned by a different company, but we have the maintenance contract there. And they just did a ribbon cutting a few months ago. So landscaping and stuff was all installed by the builder. We did not do the install, but the maintenance is done by us. And there were some issues. So we're getting ready to issues on the landscape side. We're getting ready to do this ribbon cutting for the chamber and the hospital. And there's, a helicopter coming in and all these things. And the client calls me because we have a really good relationship. And he's like, hey, I know you guys are swamped right now, but can you like in a day pretty this thing up? And I'm like, well, we'll try. But I knew like, yeah, we will. So we quickly mobilized. I pulled people off other jobs. We cleaned the whole place up, went through, kind of fixed some of the things that our the construction company had fixed or had messed up, made it look presentable. And then the morning of the ribbon cutting, they're like, we would like to have some flowers out there. There's like 2 hours to when we cut these ribbons. So
nice.
We took a truck and went to our Pratt's office, our headquarters there, which luckily is close by. And we loaded up a whole bunch of flowers that were sitting on Pratt's grounds, on the back patio and the different areas. And then our office manager, I think she had a bunch of flowers at her house. We sent people over there to get flowers. Like we just pieced together this flower arrangement. So they have one of those Lexington horses, like the glass horses or the sculpture horses in front of this building. We like decorated him, and we were just literally pulling the last flower off the truck as people are starting to arrive in suits and ties, and I got crew running everywhere. So this hospital is one of our better customers, so we always go out of our way to make them happy, and we pulled it off. It looked great. We got a ton of compliments, and I actually got to meet some directors of other hospitals that are owned by this same company, and we've been providing bids for them now. So it was well worth it.
Awesome. That's a fun story, man. That's like I was working at Lockheed, and we had a military customer and we had a bunch of tight deadlines. And those moments when you're like, and everybody's scattering, those are the moments you talk about forever. I think that's super cool.
I think those are the moments too, where we always tend to succeed when the pressure's on and you have to get it right.
Yeah.
First time, our team just excels. If we have time to think about it, we lollygag and we do this, just like any, human nature, right? But
yeah.
If we have to get it done, we get it done.
But when it matters, you get it done. I love it. Yeah. I'm going to tell a story here real quick about I call it baseboards. I was working for my dad. He used to be a veterinarian. He had a vet clinic, and there was an exam room. And in the exam room, it's stainless steel. All the surfaces are stainless steel because you have fluids that need to be cleaned. And then there was stainless steel baseboards around on the floor. And I'm 14 or whatever. I'm cleaning. I did my job and I left. And then later, my dad pulls me aside. He's like, "Hey, you didn't clean the baseboards." And I was like, "They're baseboards, Dad. Nobody cares, right?" Because as a 14-year-old male, I don't care. Who looks at baseboards? And he said to me, "You don't think it's important, but there's no way that my clients know if I do a good job as a veterinarian. They have no idea because they're not veterinarians. They're just trusting me. The only thing they can do is when they walk into that exam room, they look around the room and they see that everything's spotless. All of the tools are in the right spot, all the little cotton swabs and cotton balls, and everything's in order. And that's the only way they can guess and know if I'm a good veterinarian or not." Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Okay, whatever, Dad, I get it. I'll clean the baseboards." Right. Typical teenager orneriness. So a couple of years later, I got my car, driving around with my friends. We go to a fish joint, which I will not name, but it sounds a lot like Ong John's Milvers. And the baseboards were filthy, like probably hadn't been cleaned in a decade. And I looked at those baseboards and I said to myself, maybe I shouldn't eat here. If they don't take care of the baseboards, maybe they're not good at taking care of cooking fish. But I ignored it and I ate the fish anyway, and I got food poisoning. And so for me, the cleanliness of the baseboards in an office really matters. Now, I know you don't do baseboards, but you all do something more important, which is that facade, the grasscaping, as the landscaping, as I walk up to your organization. If it's not well maintained, does that tell me something about your organization? Right. So having a partner like you that takes not only pride, but is passionate about getting that right is a big deal.
We hear it all the time from customers that when our customers come to see them, their first impression is what they see in the parking lot. They're looking at the landscaping. They're looking at the grass. They're looking at is trash picked up? Is there weeds growing everywhere? So their first impression, like their first line of defense on marketing, is how the grounds looks. And so that's where we come in. And to that effect, us as professionals in this realm, I'm really big on our equipment being clean, our employees being dressed in company shirts at all times. And so you will see a lot of times on Thursday afternoons, there's trucks lined up behind the shop. They're getting scrubbed down. All the manager trucks. We have, a lot of us have the little VIP sticker things where you drive through the car wash however many times you want and company pays for it. Because our first impression when we show up on site is, hey, if this person looks like a slob and their truck looks like, is sloppy and dirty, what kind of product am I going to expect from them? So impression is everything.
Yeah. And it sets, when you're an employee and you have to wear that polo and keep that polo clean, or when you have to clean your truck and keep all the trash out after you have McDonald's, it sets something in your mind that says, and I think the Ritz-Carlton says it this way: we are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen, right? Our service may not seem prestigious, but we are your first impression. We're your first line in the sales pipeline. And I think that I've seen your trucks all over town. I'm in a nicer neighborhood. I see your trucks in the neighborhood. And your guys really are. They're always professional and always doing a great job. We are starting to run out of time.
We have some old trucks out there, so those will probably be retired soon. But yeah, we're in the process of rolling the fleet to get newer, better looking vehicles. But at least they're clean.
Yeah, at least they're clean. No, that's right. Okay, so we're running out of time. You have done something special for me here, and I appreciate it. If you all are listening and you're like, hey, I want to find out more about Pratt's, talk to me about this offer and how they can get it.
Sure. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in learning more about our services, and if you're an existing customer and you'd like a free area and overseat, which this time of year is the perfect time to do it, give us a call. You can either contact us online through Facebook or simply call the office, mention this podcast, and I'll be sure that we give you a free aerate and overseat, and we'll do it up to 5,000 square feet, which is a $250 value. And that captures 5,000 square feet, captures a lot of the homes in this area. But if you have a larger yard, we'll apply that value discount to your service. So give us a call, and we would love to help you out. We'll do it for 2 clients. So the first 2 that call in, there'll be 2 vouchers, and we'll get it taken care of.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So if you are a residential and you're like, hey, it's the fall, and I think I want to get ahead of next season, reach out to Travis or someone over at Pratt's. Tell them that you heard about Pratt's here on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, and get free. We got 2 spots though, so jump out there and do it quick. Tell them you heard them here, and get your lawn good looking for next year. Okay. With that, I'm going to play a little walk-off music here. Give you a chance to give us the last couple points you want to talk about. You got about 60 seconds. Tell us what you want to walk away with here.
Sure. So what I'd like to walk away with, first off, I appreciate you having me on here. It's a great opportunity for Pratt's, and it's been fun. I would just encourage people in the area to give us a call, consider us. We're locally owned. We've been in business for 30 years, going on 31 years now. So we have the tools and the equipment and the size to do everything from small jobs to the large commercial jobs, but we have that local hometown touch to give you that personalized experience. So we would love to partner with you, whether it's on a residential property, if it's lawn care or landscape, or if you're a property manager with an apartment complex or a manufacturing company or whatever it may be on the large scale. We're out to take care of that as well. We'd love to hear from you.
I love it. All right, that's it. So reach out to Travis. If you are in the Georgetown area or the surrounding counties, and you are looking for big business skill with a small business heart, reach out to Pratt's Lawn and Landscaping. And with that, we are out.